Welcome to the next level. Appreciate you guys joining us. We had a special show today. We're going to look back at some of our top training segments from this past year as we kick off the new year. So stay tuned. We got a segment from Sean Mike. We got our boy Depot. We got Amela, Mallory Cruz, some of our most impactful trainings over the past year. So if you missed them in 2024, you get to watch them now. And if you've not registered for annual convention, do that as soon as possible. We all will be there in a few weeks. Hopefully we'll see you there. VIP premier seats are sold out. There's some general admission left. If you go to FFLconvention.com today, get your ticket, get geared up, kick off this new year right. Enjoy the show. Especially with everything we do now, a lot of telesales, a lot of Zoom stuff.
Yes.
It's a little different than going in the home. You have a little more leeway when you're face-to-face, right? Mm-hmm. You could screw up the first 2 or 3 minutes and work your way back.
Correct.
But Zoom, you hit that red button, it's over.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
Right? Same thing on telesales. Your first few minutes, if you're not, you don't have it down right, you don't have them, they could just hang up the phone, right? So talk to me a little bit about why that's so important and what do you do in those first 5 minutes to make sure that, you're going to be in the best position to help this family?
Very good question. And what I've noticed, because I come from a face-to-face, right? Okay. Is you really have to be on 10 times more on Zoom, right, and on phones. I've also shared, with other agents that, if you do have dialers, if you do people that we do as well, right, virtual assistants, people that you do not want to do that on the new leads, right? Those fresh ones that you get, only you get to touch that because you are the only one that can make the settings so unique and capture that client within that first 30 seconds than no one else can.
Right.
So in your head, you really have to think of how am I different than everyone else, right? And what I've always done when I've called them, right, and I do my introduction correctly later, where I'm calling from, who I am, but I always speak to them as if they're my friend. So when I pick up that phone, I'm like, hey, John, how you been? How's your day? I'm so sorry it took a few days for me to call back. It really throws people off because if someone did that to me, I always put myself in the other position. How would I react, right? I would never hang up. I would keep that person on the phone for a minute or two till I figure out where I knew them from. Right. And that's essentially what they're doing. So what you've done, you just bought yourself the time, first of all, to maybe make them smile, to maybe have a brief little connection, and to get them in enough to where you have a leeway, to where they're not busy or not at work.
Right. Got it. So tone is huge, right?
Tone is huge. I'm a full-blown actress when I get on the phone.
Well, you say different than most people. Because our clients, they're not just filling out insurance leads. They're filling out a lot of stuff, right? And they're used to being called by the telemarketer, right?
Of course.
Hi, Mr. Jones, would you have a few minutes today? And they just hang up.
That's it.
Because it sounds like you said, everyone else that's trying to sell something.
Exactly.
When you're saying that, it brings me back to, 15 years ago selling in-home, booking appointments. It was the same thing. Those first few seconds on that phone.
That's where you sell them.
That's where it is. And it was the same deal. It was always, hey, Mike. And they're like, not, can I speak to Mike? Is this Mike?
Yep.
If the lead says Mike and a guy answers the phone, I'm going to assume it's him.
Yep.
9 times out of 10, I'm right. Every once in a while, they go, no, this ain't Mike. This is John. Let me go grab him. But I'm sounding like, and then like you said, we always would say we're getting back to you. You said that, sorry, it took me a few days to get back to you. Because they initiated content. They filled something out. Right?
And if not, let's say they didn't, right? I'm always assuming the sale.
Yes.
It's always yes for me.
Yeah.
So, and I never ask, so, did you guys, I'm assuming it as if it happened.
Right.
And if they want to tell me different, then I'm going to be shocked.
Sure. Yep.
I wanted, to help you with that cash value generational wealth policy that I didn't, Mike, what do you mean? Like full-blown actress. And it really catches people by such a surprise, or you capture them in a way where they really don't want to hang up.
Right.
Because who else are they talking to in the day that's going to be more entertaining or funnier than me? Honestly, humbly.
Right.
But it is true.
Yeah.
I bring some light to their day. Like, people are like, oh, you want to, I'm like, of course we're going to be correct by the client. Of course, anything that we can sell them is a correct product. Just because in our head we think that it should be min-max. No, death benefit, death benefits are important to some people.
Sure.
Every product that we have, if it's there by carrier to sell, is a correct product, right? We're going to explain it well. But at the same time, you have to understand that people are always buying you, and I've seen this in my industry for 15 years. Every time that owner comes back, they have no idea what they bought. Mm-hmm. They don't know what they own. They don't even know the maintenance.
Yep.
Just like when you ask these people, oh, you already have insurance. Who do you have it with? No clue. Right. They can't tell you if it's term. They can't tell you if it. I'll name the companies. I'm like, hey, is it with Transamerica? Mm-hmm. NLG? Maybe that A. But you know what they will remember? They always remember me.
Absolutely.
And they will literally say, man, it was that Croatian girl with that dog that I always. Like, I would have my reps some years before. They're like, the family's asking for him. I'm like, no, I don't want to see him. I'd be like, hiding. They're like, no, the girl with the big nails and the lashes, they're asking. That's what they remember because it's energy. Like you said, it's an energy sale.
We're still on this amazing journey and mission as we're selling so much and putting in so much indexed universal life in place for families all over America. You have to understand that my background, I got my life insurance license in 2008. One of the first products I wrote, being 36 on myself, was an indexed universal life. Read a book by Patrick Kelly called Tax-Free Retirement. I was like, is this really true? Like, you can really do this? I called the insurance carrier. It was actually F&G. I called them up. I was like, I think I'm going to write some policies, one on myself, a couple on my kids. Like, how does this work? Is this accurate? This is the way it's structured. Yes, it is. Amazing. Okay. How do I illustrate it? What do I do? Walk me through it. I was like, well, that was amazing. The problem in 2008 was that would take me, 2.5 months to get issued. You go through your medical exam. You go through, it was just, and I'm like, wow, and I'm the one doing the process. I'm the agent and I'm the insured, and it was still pretty exhausting. So for me, we launched FFL, mortgage protection, final expense. We sell annuities. Amazing. It's great. COVID hits. Numbers go through the roof. We go virtual. In-home sales is relationship building. Like, do you all trust me? Do you believe that I'm doing the best by you? Am I direct to your family? Do you believe I'm going to handle things when something happens? Like I call the insurance carrier and I handle your death benefit. That's always been my deal. Told my kids in sales, the way you win is you can walk around head held high always. I was at a little local fair with them in Connecticut long time ago. And this guy and his wife were screaming and their kids, Sean. So I'm turning around. I'm looking, there's all these people. And I'm like, hey guys, how are you? And I'm trying to remember their names. I knew that they were clients of mine. And they said to their kids, this is our insurance guy. And I'll never forget when they walked away, I said to my kids, the thing in sales or in your business, like you need to be able to walk, when anybody calls, anybody you've helped, treat them with respect, be direct with them, be honest, do it the right way, and serve them. That was in-home sales. If you believed I was confident enough, I was going to do my job, I was showing you the product, I was being very direct. Well, I want it for this. Well, sir, I'm not mad at you, but you're 74, here's all the medical problems you got. You don't get it for that. I was very direct, respectful, but direct. No, somebody said I can get this. No, that's accidental. That's not why would you do that? I got your life insurance, but here's what it costs and here's why. That's how we did it in home. Virtual, and we have a lot of people who are still in the home because, post-COVID and all that, everybody can be back in the home, do what they want to do. A lot of folks are like, hey, I'm doing my virtually. Love it. I'm whatever works for you and the clients, I'm all about it. Zoom, phone, home, that's on you. Completely support it. That's great. What we did realize is over the phone, things change. And they don't change dramatically, but they change. When I was at your house, you were buying me, what I'm doing, what we put together. Over the phone, people are calling you all the time. So you got to work really hard to build a relationship, right? But also realizing that the way business is done in the home and the way it's done on the phone, if anybody says my persistence is exact, and again, they'll tell you because people always tell you, I have 99.2%. Dude, I'm telling you, I've been doing this 15 years. I have my numbers. I have their numbers. I probably have your numbers even if you don't work with us. No, it's not. There's a change. So you have to understand what we're doing over the phone. And then a number of guys were like, hey, I'm selling IULs over the phone. We're killing it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. That takes really long to do. And then we started having carriers like Mutual of Omaha were like, I have this express product. Marico released theirs. There's one on Ethos platform. But even like when you take F&G, NLG, take these carriers, even the ones that have requirements that are more involved than a straight simplified issue, you're like, oh, wait a minute. This happens pretty quick because I want the client to get their insurance, not in months, and I want the agent to be able to put it in place and also get paid. So we made this, we were 8-9% of our business a year ago. Life side was the Index Universal Life. Persistency is ridiculously high. I also believe, for me, when you take hundreds of millions of Americans for leads on life insurance, mortgage, finance, you have to have people that are like, hey, I might die or get sick. Like, let's talk. And unfortunately, the entire population doesn't think that way. Even though it's guaranteed, you hear all these sayings like, what's guaranteed? Taxes and death. The only two things. Like, guaranteed you're going to die, but there are people that don't want to discuss it, don't want to think about it, don't want to address it, all of the above. What I realize is everybody 18 to 50, and if your health maybe a little bit older, I'm like, wow, everybody sees a different benefit, right? Like, I can do something about my retirement, something that's tax-free. I'm 20. I don't got to get a 401k and wait till I'm 59 and a half. I can fund this at this level. The cost of insurance, I'm young and healthy, is here. Here's what I'm able to do. I also have insurance, so I have a death benefit. And then you figure out which one are you more focused on, your cash accum, your death benefit, what are you looking for? And they structure them right, and you're like, wow, what an amazing product. That being said, it's one of those things where now I think everybody, the lead, and that's why leads are so easy to produce. And like here, it's like if you want to produce them on your own, if you work at a company that requires you to buy leads from them, I think like if they say you can't buy them somewhere else, I think you should quit. Because that means they're their leads and they're making money off of the, like if they're like, you can't, like at FFL, I want you to get whatever works the best for you as long as it's compliant, I want you to get it. That's what I want you to do. It has to be compliant, though. Like, it really has to be compliant. But if you're like, I'm doing really well with this, they're compliant, here's what I'm doing, here's how many buy a week, good for you, man. I'm doing well over here, man, good for you. I get them from over. That's how we've been since day one. But if you're like, well, I have to buy them from him, I'm like, why? Well, he requires me to. Why? Because he makes money on them. Is your job to make him more money or make yourself more money? What is your job, right? So you have to decide that. Now, IUL leads, you can produce them yourself. Social media, a lot of people are doing it. It's easy to teach you how to do it. It's not very complicated. But understand that where we're going is we are going to be 50% of our life volume will be Index Universal Life by the end of this year and 75% by mid next year. We still love all. We were growing. We had our best month ever last month. That's what we're always moving and things are happening and we're growing and life goes on and people are like, man, but you just keep growing. Yeah, so we just keep recruiting people and working really hard and putting the best products in front of them and having the best relationships we can with the carriers. And we're adding some new carrier relationships, which is amazing. So we're really excited about that. But really, when you look at what you're doing, and people call me and go, so I was with a group of guys the other day. They're like, so you're telling us we should write Index Universal Life. I'm like, I'm telling you that no matter what, you should diversify what you sell. I'm not telling the people that sell IULs to sell, like there's times where people can't qualify for an IUL from health situation or age. They write whatever they, final expense, write more, whatever they can do. I just don't think it's ever a good idea to go, I don't do that, I only do this. And that's my advice to you from a business standpoint. You do what you want to do, what makes sense for you and your business unit. You're independent. As long as everything you're doing is compliant, I'm totally good. Doesn't matter to me. I want you to be as profitable as you can be. But I realize as we scale this thing, how amazing it's been to have that large a percentage of our book, Index Universal Life, which has ridiculously high persistency where it stays in the books, which means you keep getting paid on it. You don't have to worry about like that chargeback diminishes dramatically. It takes all the best parts of the business and allows you to amplify those.
When I first started in insurance, I was doing final expense, one call close. And I'm so glad I started out that way. I'm really glad. I think a lot of people should start out that way and do. So when I first started in final expense, I was very salesy. I would try to, if they said, no, I don't want this, I'd make them want it. I was going to turn their mind around. I was going to, convince them that they needed this. And things changed really when I started doing mortgage protection, which is what I primarily do now. I'm not trying to convince you that you need this. I want to ask questions so you discover that you need this. I want to ask questions so you sell yourself that you need this. And that's hard. Yeah. That's a skill. That is a skill to do that, and it is hard, but once you learn it, you've got it.
Right.
But my chargebacks have gone down when people realize they need it rather than me telling them they need it. And that's just an evolution over time, getting to that point where you, like I said earlier, it's a dance.
Yeah.
And I find that the people that my gut's saying, pull back, you're trying to convince them. When I get too convincing, that's going to be a chargeback. Oh, yeah. And we even have a saying on my team, like me and my sister will be like, I didn't want the chargeback. Sometimes you got to know it's an L. Like, just take the L and move on.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want that. You might get that commission statement, but it's just coming out next week.
Right. Yeah, you're better off just walking away from it.
Yeah. Just read the room, read the people, and find people that are telling you they see the value, and then close it,
It's almost like people make me nervous when they're too good at sales, because you can sell them in that moment, but that's not what you need. You need to walk them through so they realize it themselves, which that's why, Sean used to say this all the time, like, it's not sales. And you should look at it that way. We're taking orders. Now you may have to talk to them and I don't say convince, just get them to get there mentally. You got to bring them back to that point that they were at when they requested information, whatever they did. They fill out the form, lead, however you're getting your prospects, but you got to bring them back to that. If we were cold calling and cold knocking and all that shit, then sure, you got to sell them. But you sold me when you got insurance for your husband. You filled it out somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't confused about you wanted it. Yeah. They just had to make sure not to screw it up. Ask the right questions, lead you along the way, and get you something that fits your budget and your needs.
And when you're pushing, it feels icky. Like when it feels icky and when it doesn't. And I started feeling icky sometimes because I could convince them. Yeah. But, was it something they were really going to value? Was it something they were going to cut out later from their budget? I deeply believe in what we do and what we're doing for families. And if they don't align with that, it's just a matter of time. They're going to eventually be like, I need insurance. It's just, a matter of time of when. Can
you bring us through, Depot, in your opinion, what are some of the most important things you need to educate your client on as far as IULs before you get into, I'm going to sell you this policy, right?
For me, it's really making sure that agents understand that you have to know the purpose of why they want this product. Okay. So you talked about final expense. Most people know that when they pass away, this is what happens. You talk about mortgage protection. Those are very cut and dry as to what they do, while IUL can be used for so many different purposes. So the first thing I always tell, at least my agents, is that you have to know why the client wants this particular policy. For example, one of my agents reached out to me yesterday that she has a potential client, 61 years old, who wants to put in $500 into an IUL a month. So my next question is, what is this person's goal? And she said it's for, growth, for growth. Okay. And immediately I thought to myself, this may not be the best product for this client, because at 61, for it to make sense, because it can make sense, right, you have to put in a lot of money. Right. Right. So it's better off you use maybe an annuity where you can do month-to-month contribution or others, some other type of financial instrument. Got it. So the first step is understanding that your client's need will determine whether or not this is a good product for them and whether or not it can be designed to meet that need.
So get their goal first.
100%. Okay. Right. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is to help them understand what the product can and cannot do. A lot of people try to portray IUL as an investment. It is not an investment, right? Now, even though it feels like an investment, the first thing is that primarily it's an insurance policy. Right. So when I'm talking to a client, I let them know first and foremost that this is a life insurance policy. It is not an investment, cannot be treated as investment. But when you understand the tax codes that governs these policies, it does allow you to put your money in a position where it can accumulate money over time. Right. So that's where that, the whole structuring IUL comes into play. So oftentimes people would say, make sure your IUL is structured properly. Well, what does that mean? right? It means that if a client's going to get this policy, it needs to be designed in a way that can fit their individual goals, not everybody's goals.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's like the biggest thing. Like, number one, understanding what they're trying to do with the policy, understanding that it's not an investment, and explaining that it's not an investment, but also sharing with them how the policy can help them to accumulate money over time. Now, in doing that piece, it's also important to let them know how your money's protected inside the policy.
Okay.
Because it's not, so when you say something is an investment, that means it has the ability to go up and to come down. That is what an investment is.
Right.
There's risk associated with it. So as an agent, you have to be able to explain what indexing means to your client so they understand that, hey, you know, when you put money inside of a life insurance contract, your money's protected because X, Y, and Z. And that's where the educational piece comes in as a life insurance agent, where you got to understand a product before you go out trying to sell it to anybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what, number 3?
Yep.
Then number 4 is helping them to understand how to access money from the policy.
Okay.
Especially for those who want to use it for cash accumulation.
Yeah.
There's several ways to access money. You can withdraw the money, and you can also take it out as a loan. Now, under tax code 7702, it's better off you take it out as a loan, because now all that growth is not subject to taxes,
right?
Because you don't pay taxes on loans.
Correct.
But if you withdraw the money, and this is where a lot of clients ask the question, why do I have to borrow my own money? Now, as an agent, if you don't understand how that whole dynamic works, you might get caught up in that conversation. Yeah. So first thing, your client is not borrowing their own money, right? Depending on what, you know, whether you're using the, just the indexing loan or whatever the case may be. But it's important to let them know that when you're accessing a loan from the policy, technically speaking, your money remains in your cash value account, right? If you access it the right way, while the insurance company loans you whatever you're trying to, leverage from the policy, if that makes sense, right? So that kind of gives you the ability to leverage the little margin depending on how the index performs.
Yeah.
So that's the 4th thing, which is explaining how accessing money from the policy works in order not to trigger paying taxes on that money. And then the last thing is the fees. A lot of people shy. I see this all the time on social media, where people will say, well, talk about the fees. And to me, it's not something that I shy away from, because I understand the product.
Yeah.
Anything that you put money into that helps your money to grow will have some fees associated with it.
Sure.
Now, the unfortunate part is that a lot of agents don't know how to minimize those fees. And that's why it always goes back to that educational piece, that if you don't understand the product, you can think you're doing something right, but in the truth of the matter is you're actually hurting the client, because they're paying so much fees throughout the course of the policy that eats into the cash value. I'll give you an example. I'm working with a client now who got a policy 3 years ago. He was 31 or 32 at the time, young guy.
Yeah.
He's paying $300 a month for a $700,000 face amount.
Okay.
So my first question was, well, did you tell the agent that you were interested in a $700,000 policy? Right. Or is your primary goal to have a large death benefit to protect your family? His response was no, I wanted to build or accumulate cash value to use later on in life.
Got it.
And I said, what you have is a horribly designed IUL policy.
You got the opposite of that.
You got the complete opposite. So I asked for his illustration. We looked at it, and under the surrender values, 0, 0, 0, and then year 4, maybe like $200 and something. So I told him, I said, do you know that after 3 to 4 years, if you decide to cancel this policy, if that was your choice, you've completely lost everything you've put into it, because more of your premium was going towards the face amount.
Yeah, almost all of it.
Almost everything.
Yeah.
And you weren't building any cash value. He got a policy for his now 22-month-old child.
Mm-hmm.
The child has a $500,000 death benefit, and he's contributing $175,000.
Yeah.
So my question was, did you ask for $500,000? No, I was trying to build something towards college. I said, this is a poorly designed policy.
Yeah.
So this goes back to, number one, as an agent, you understanding the product and making sure that you're designing the policy to meet the need of the client and not something that favors you as an agent.